Hi, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name is Stuart. As you may know, I've been working on a Renegade Crowns army. I took 1,000 points of it to the Throne of Skulls in January, and I'm eagerly working on the next 1,000 points. And one of those is a pike block-esque. It's some veteran sellswords really, but I want them to look as much like pikes as I possibly can using Games Workshop kits. And the new peasants from Grand Cathay have got quite long spears. So I've made a little conversion and I'm going to do a test paint now for that unit, and you're going to join me. So let me know what you think.
Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems, and offer custom items to suit your club, your event, or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Check out the link in the video description.
So here's my existing 1,000 points of Renegade Crowns. I actually took this to doubles at the Throne of Skulls in January and managed to win with my friend. Different videos, go and check them out on the channel. There's one all about that, and there's a lot about painting the different elements of this army. But so far it's got very much a Marienburg centered theme, at least in the leadership, and a unit of self-swords, and even the Bone Grinder Giant has got a nautical kind of theme that's linked to Marienburg to go with it. I really want my army to be a bit Dogs of War-ish, have different units from different areas, and I have a wonderful BSB miniature that was sculpted for me by Yongjuk Kim, and he's got a little bit of an Arabe theme, but my idea is that he's either Estalian or Chilean, more likely Chilean. So I started to look at some inspirations within the Renegade Crowns army list to start me off. The way the list is written gives you plenty of inspiration. My Lord has the Noble Outlaw rule, but my BSB is going to have the Might of Maragliano, and he's going to lead a unit of long spears essentially, or pikemen in my head canon, and use the phalanx rule, which really fits in with a lot of the Chilean miniatures and themes of the past. So of course, for inspiration, I head to the old Dogs of War book, as I did originally for this army, and started to look at some of the rules, look at the map of Tilia of course as well, and some of the miniatures that existed at the time. These obviously weren't all the miniatures that came out, and a lot of them have a Chilean theme. In many ways this was very much a Chilean themed book. Not half, that's a little bit of an over exaggeration, but about 30% of the lore in the book is based around Tilia as well. So it felt like a small Chilean army list in many ways, and if they ever did return, it would make a very cool army of infamy just to cover that country. I don't quite want to do any of the units that are here. I'd love to own those miniatures, but I wanted to do something new but inspired by other things. One unit that stood out was Bazzario's Lost Legions in miniatures, I believe, that came along a little bit later on, and you can see the images of them here from the back of a white dwarf, and they got more of a Spanish type theme to them, so maybe a stallion, and they come from an area of Tilia which may have had a little bit more of an influence. And if we go right back to the early armies books here, you'll see there's some Estalian units as well as Chilean units there as mercenaries. I've also got this unit of old handgunners that were available on the made to order just before Christmas, and I like the idea of painting them in exactly the same uniform and livery that the BSB is in command of all of these. So he's got some handgunners and some pikemen and his own little mercenary warband that's joined with the rest of the Renegade Crowns army. And like Bazzario's Legion, I like the idea that they come from the region of Tubaro, and that's part of Tilia, but just over the Chilean Sea to the Estalian side. So I like the idea that maybe the troops are made up of a mix of Estalian and Chilean men. So I've got a box of the plastic Empire Greatswords. I've never used these before, and when I used to have Empire Revolt, I had the metal versions, and I've also got some of the new peasant levy for Grand Cathay games, which I very kindly sent me a box ahead of time to make lots of videos, and you'll have seen that on the channel already. And of course that leaves you with some spare pike or spear arms if you're making the bows. So I've got a few of those left over, and I came up with the idea of trying out a bit of a kit bash. And I was already going to try and make my spearmen out of the great swords anyway. I really like the bodies, and I was just deciding which spear arms to use. I was probably going to use the standard Empire State Troops, but these are a little bit longer, which gives more of that pike look that I'm after. Yes, I could have made them out of brass rod, etc., but if I can make it all out of plastic, I will. Makes it a little bit easier. So I set about making a bit of a test build to see what it would look like and if it was a viable project. And this test build is obviously what you're seeing today in this video. Like most modern day GW kits, you don't have an awful lot of options with these spear arms. You've got a left arm and a right arm that are designed to work together, which wasn't too much of a problem. I'm trying to focus on the sculpts with the more spear end looking. There's a couple have got that half moon sickle effect, and I wanted to go for the ones that look more normal, and then filed off a little bit of the sort of the edges, a little bit of the detail, just to make it look like smoother armor. I thought that once it was there with the rest of the miniature, it wouldn't look too oriental themed, too Eastern. When I glued the waist down, I realized that the spear was going to be off to the side, so I just changed the angle so it's like he's leading with his left shoulder a little bit, and then turn the head as well to reflect that, so that when the spear is in hand, he's kind of pointing forwards a little bit, maybe to 11 o'clock. Needed a little bit of green stuff in order to fix the left shoulder. There's just too much of a gap. It's obviously not designed to fit on this miniature, but a very small ball of green stuff later, and the miniature arm went on with no problems at all. So it means you got a little bit of time to sort of move it around without it falling off, and I could use the plastic glue to glue the hand to the wrist as normal, and then using a little sculpting tool, tidy up any green stuff that's just poking out. There's only a tiny little bit. It's filled the gap nicely for me, and there he is. The simplest of kit bashes, but I quite like the movement in it, and a whole unit of these will look fantastic, I hope. I started with my usual method of a black prime and then a heavy zenithal all over the top afterwards. I like to build up lightly up first so you get a bit of a grey tone, and then focus more heavily from the top afterwards. Incidentally, all the paints that I use in this video I will be holding up to the camera at some point. I say all, nearly all. I've not held up the white that I'm using right now, and I'll put a full list of them all up on my Patreon as well, and that won't be behind a paywall. It's available to free members as well, and there might be a full type list, but there will be pictures as well. At the very least, you'll be able to look and see everything should you wish to follow along or copy anything at home. I like to really boost that underpaint with a little bit of dry brush as well, dry brushing on the white just to catch the edges of the detail, so it's very light. I don't want anything going smooth and streaky over the flat surfaces. It's just that when I apply the first layers, which are nearly always contrast style paints, that you really get a boost with the detail straight away, and it helps you with the later highlights and blah blah blah. If you've watched a lot of my videos, you'll have heard this spiel many times before. And I'm starting with a yellow and red mix with a green accent colour, so it's different from the previous units in the Renegade Crowns. As I said, I'm trying to break this army up into chunks led by different sort of mercenary leaders, and this little contingent is led by my BSB coming from a slightly different area. So you've got that Dogs of War theme. I want some colours to cover through the whole army, so we've got red and yellow already in the Marienburg colours that I've already used, so that's good, but I didn't want to completely match it up. And again, incidentally, this is a completely different colour to the uniform that my BSB is wearing. He's got his own uniform. He's carrying the flag of the Renegade Lord as well, the Prince. So he will stand out from the unit, but I wanted the unit to kind of be its own thing. And I'll use the same paint scheme when I get around to those handgunners as well. Going for a bit of a quartered pattern with the reds and the yellows. So if you want to do a Talabek land style army, you may find this useful as well. And I've already done similar paint schemes and tutorials in the past for them. I just wanted something that looked a little bit like the colours that were on the box art for those handgunners. Actually, I quite like the yellow and red. It's a slightly different yellow recipe here, but essentially it won't look an awful lot different once it's part of the whole army. I just wanted something really vibrant. And the reason I'm adding the green in there is because I didn't want to go to Spain, Estalia, especially with this being Chilean. So I thought adding a green accent colour in there just brings its own identity a little bit as well. But I really wanted that yellow and red to be the base of it, and then by adding the green, which you can see I'm doing now, it just finishes it off as far as I'm concerned, and it's the colour I was going for. It's what I had in my head when I first envisaged this unit as a big pipe block. Skeleton Horde here is a colour I use in nearly every paint job I do these days. It's got one little sock showing, so I decided to use it for that, but also for the haft of the big spear as well. I wanted something a little bit lighter that stood out from the darker brown that's going to be on the leather straps and his boots, and this was quite nice. For the brown, going for one of my all-time favourites as well, the Cygor Brown contrast paint. You can highlight up afterwards if you do that, if you choose to do that in so many different ways. You can go with reds, reddish browns. You can also go with more earthy browns as well. It's quite versatile, and the paint I think has changed slightly over the time as well. It's less red now, but I still love it. Really, really nice. And then it's on to starting to highlight that yellow. Now all those base colours are down for all the normal areas, so I'm just starting to build very subtle highlights using this slightly lighter shade. And when you've underpainted your miniature, and I talk about this an awful lot in my videos, one of the reasons I paint the way I do is when you underpaint your miniature and then add a contrast layer, you've already got highlights showing there. That's the way the contrast paint is designed to work. So I tend to then go with a colour that's just a little bit lighter or matches that top highlight that's showing on the miniature, and just kind of colour in really. I'm just following along the top lines of the folds in the clothing and drawing on them with that slightly lighter yellow. So you've got this transition between the darker in the recesses and the light on those highlights. That yellow didn't quite pop enough, so I wanted to add an extra layer of highlighting. This is just slightly lighter. It's always optional when you do it this way. I like to usually add sort of 2 levels of highlighting. I think that just makes it pop enough for me. Couple of reds here from the Cool Reds Flexible Triad from Army Painter, and it works really nicely over the base red, which was a contrast Blood Angels red, working exactly the same way as I did with the yellow. So focusing on those highlighted areas already, and enhancing them, making them brighter, making them pop and stand out more, and then layering up with those 2 different shades of red until they sort of brighter, look neater, and look like standard layering highlighting. And I think these are really punchy reds, really enjoying discovering them, to be honest with you. I definitely recommend them. There's loads of good reds out there, but these are fast becoming my favourite reds at the moment, and just work really well with those contrast paints. I need a really subtle highlight on that green sash, and I've got some ethereal green here. I'm just mixing in a little bit of the top highlight of yellow. I just found I didn't have a green that quite matched the colour I wanted, and I liked the idea of a little bit of yellow in it. It matches the warmth that's there from the yellow and the red that's already there, and I think that works quite well. Whether I do the whole unit and I return to that mix, I'm not sure. I might look to purchase something that matches it completely, so I don't always have to mix. But because it's just a spot colour, I don't mind if it varies just a little bit. It's always nice to have a little bit of variation and character in a unit. A selection from another Flexible Triad from the Rose skin tones, and then the Ash Root there is one of the John Blanche Volume 3 colours. I think it's now added as the bottom tone, the 7th tone now. If you buy the new extended Flexible Triads, they've started to add some of those masterclass paints where they fit with existing Flexible Triads, which is quite nice. I bought a set the other day and there was a 7th paint in it, and it's one of the masterclass colours, so that's quite a nice way of doing it. And when I originally started using those paints, I really enjoyed them, but it did feel like it was missing a darker base tone. I think I even talked about it in the review video I made, and it's you know, that covers the gap, that fills the gap. It means they had the paints within the range. You could pick them up from some Browns or from some of the other sets, but it's nice there if you're someone that struggles with colour choices and you want it there in a box for you, so you know which colour's next throughout the progression. It's just really handy to have them all there in one set, and you can just pick a selection there. But this isn't working over any contrast paints, but I'm still layering up. I'm starting at dark and working my way all the way up to the lightest tone. Each highlight is a little bit smaller on the miniatures. You're leaving all of the previous tones still showing, including that darkest brown in all the recesses. I paint my eyes after I've done that first skin tone, so that if I need to cut back in and make them smaller or adjust the size of them, I can do that with the next layer of paint or before I've painted the rest. If I get a perfect skin tone and you end up with a wonky eye, it's really frustrating to have to go back and paint flesh back in and maybe messing up all the work that you've already done. But I'm just taking my time, working my way up through those 4 different flesh colours until I get to the top highlight, and it's a little bit on the bridge of the nose, it's across the knuckles, a little bit on the top of the cheekbone, that kind of stuff. And you can do as much or as little as you want there, and this is quite a lot, I suppose, for painting a whole unit. And it's always easy when I'm coming up with these paint schemes when I'm working out on one miniature and then I've got the whole unit to do. But I know what I'm like. I'll probably end up doing this many highlights anyway for my own army. If it was for someone else who's doing a commission job, it might cut that down to maybe 2 or 3 stages or something like that. All those off-white stages to the bits I used the skeleton horde on earlier on, I just highlighted with this slightly lighter bone colour. Keep it quite thin. With the spear haft, it's just a straight line all the way down, and then I just expand out a little bit with some horizontal lines just before each section on it, just to give it a little bit more life and break up the colour a little bit. And these are both from the Ruddy Browns set as well, and not necessarily the colours next to each other in the spectrum. There's almost too many colours at some point, so you could end up doing a really subtle highlight all the way along if you followed every single one. So as long as you leave them out and just make sure that you've got enough contrast as you layer up. And this is very much a case of going over that Cygor brown with the first layer and then a slightly thinner top layer. Super simple for the hair. I'm using some Grim Black Speed Paint, going over the very white looking beard there, so you get that natural effect of the highlight that you get with quick paints anyway. And then afterwards just some really quick highlights with grey, just following on the top lines of the detail of the fur. Simple as that, nothing more to it. And that leaves us with the metals, with the metallics. Browns everywhere first, and then the subsequent steel layers afterwards. And actually you end up using 4 metallic paints of this, which might be a little bit too much when we get round to painting a whole unit of them, but I'll have to see how it goes. Overall, I was pretty happy with the colour choices. I'm using the Pro Acryl paints here, and I do like them. Then I'm still looking for my perfect metallic paint at the moment for that works for airbrush and for hairy brush painting, since I can't always get hold of the Scale 75 stuff I really like, and I know I mentioned this a lot in videos as well. The Pro Acryl are pretty good. They don't blend quite as well just with the hairy brush like that. They are absolutely fantastic through the airbrush. They're really good. So I'm nearly there. I'm getting there. I've got a few more things to try. Wouldn't mind trying the P3 ones now that they're back, see if they're any different to what they were before. I love the colours and I like the way that they work out in the end, so that they're not quite as easy to use or the same way as I used them before, but they are good paints, really good quality, and the fact that they work so well with the regular brush along with the airbrush is always a bonus. This is that top highlight. It's the new True Metallic from Vallejo. I really like the colour. It's fine, absolutely fine. It works pretty well. I used to use Game Air Silver for this, and I probably need to go back and try that again. Hopefully the new formulations is just as good as the old one. We're getting towards the end now. I'm using an oil wash, a ready mixed oil wash, as I always do. This is grease, a nice sort of sepia brown tone. I'm using that on all of the metallics, and then to run into all the recesses, and it gives a really nice filter over the metallics, makes them look old and battered, and when it dries you get this really nice weathered effect. And I just think it's fantastic, and it's my favourite colour to use, and luckily I'm still just about able to get hold of this when I need it. And then the bit I love best about oils is you can just buff them off or wipe them back off afterwards. I'm not using any white spirit for this either on this miniature. I quite like the fact that just when it's touch dry I can go back and just rub it off the very top surfaces, leaving it in all those recesses. I'm just using a bit of very soft sponge here, and the effect is really good. Finishing touches now. I've not included the basing in this. I've covered it on some of the previous videos, including a video on all about how I do my basing with a few different basing recipes. I'll pop a link into that now if you're interested in seeing my ethos, but he's all done and I'm pretty happy with that. I'll be very happy with the whole unit of them all looking like that, so I will get round to that at some point. Do let me know what you think of the colour scheme, if you think it works, or any changes you might make, because obviously at this stage I've only got 1 out of 20 to 25 or so painted. I'll probably paint 20 to be honest with you and use a unit filler. But it's what I had in mind anyway, which I suppose is the most important thing. It will work nicely with my Renegade Crowns because there are some crossover colours with the yellow and red, etc. But it will look like a different unit as well, which is exactly what I was after. And I'm quite happy with the conversion. It doesn't look, in my mind anyway, like he's got like a Thayan person's arms. It just looks like it works, especially for a sort of a mercenary unit where they might get their equipment in different places. So I think that works well for me as well. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. Well, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of the conversion. Let me know what you think of the colour scheme. I want to make the rest of the unit now. I've really enjoyed painting on that. I'm pretty happy, but I'm also open to feedback as well. I may change it if anyone's got any really good ideas before I paint the rest of the whole unit. If you have bought some peasants and you've made them with bows and you've maybe got some spear arms left, do get in touch. I'm probably going to go buy more peasants myself anyway, but I definitely need to get hold of some spear arms. And as yet, at the time of recording this video, maybe by the time you're watching it I've already bought some more. At the time of recording this video I haven't sourced those extra arms so I can do my full unit, so I will be looking out for those. So if you're a channel regular or a patron or someone in my Discord, then give me a shout if you happen to have some. If you are still watching now, please give the video a like. It really helps the video get seen by other people, and if you can drop a comment and subscribe as well, that's even better. And if you really want to support me and the channel, please do check out my Patreon link in the video description. It starts down from £1, $1, it depends where you are in the world, a little bit, especially if you don't subscribe through the Apple app, they charge you more. Don't do that, go through the website. And this really helps me out, it helps the channel, and I can't thank my existing patrons enough for all the support they give me. That bit of money really means I can make more videos like this and spend more time making different content for the channel, because it just takes time, especially the painting and the editing side as well. And I love doing it, and I love to do even more of it, but I can only do that if I can afford it. So thank you for all those that support me. If you've ever thought about maybe joining the Patreon, now's a great time to do it. I really appreciate it. Also check out the channel sponsor Counterattack Bases. They make loads of gaming aids for lots of different game systems, including Warhammer the Old World, and they make fantastic custom dice as well. But thank you very much for watching. Take care. I'll catch you soon.